Hello and welcome to Let's Talk. I'm Sandy Blanchette, your host, and tonight I'm happy to have with me as our guest the Registrar of Deeds for Norfolk County, Bill O'Donnell. Hi, Bill.
Hi, Sandy. Thank you very much for having me, and thanks to Avon Cable for doing this.
Yeah, great. Well, we're all very interested in what you have to say tonight because everybody around probably owns a home or knows someone who does and could learn a lot from what the Registry of Deeds does. Why don't you give us a little background on about what you think the most important functions of the office are?
Sure. But you're right. The Registry of Deeds is an arm of government many people don't know about, but when you think about it, the biggest asset we have is our homes. I think the mission is probably the same as it was when Norfolk County started back in 1793, is to make sure that the records are recorded efficiently, accurately, that the public can rely on those records, and that you make the records accessible to the community that needs to look them up. It's a big part of the economy is the real estate economy, and if you can't rely on the records at the Registry of Deeds, houses wouldn't be sold, commercial development wouldn't be taking place. So that's really the principal function.
Yeah.
And there are, when we think of documents that get recorded at the registry, we think of the deed to our house or if we're borrowing money. But, there are, documents that involve our government. The Conservation Commission might have an order of conditions, or the Board of Appeal might give a variance out, and those documents get recorded at the registry.
Yeah, so do you think many people have actually been in person to the registry office?
Yes, we're located at 649 High Street in Dedham, right across from the Gold Dome Superior Court. It's a very busy place. With the advent of modernization initiatives like electronic recording and the internet, I think more people are now taking the virtual trip to the registry as opposed to coming in. But it's a busy place, and part of it is we approach it two different ways. One, we've tried to modernize the operation, so we have taken advantage of the advances in technology that impact our society. But we still do it the old-fashioned way. We're one of the few registries. There are 21 registries around Massachusetts. We're one of the few registries that still print books.
Yeah, and what do you mean by that, printing books?
Well, when all the documents come in and they get recorded, they have to be indexed, and so they get entered into the computer, and it's all done sequentially because in Massachusetts, it's what they call a race notice state. It's whoever races to the registry first wins. So if you're buying a house, or how about this, if I was selling a house to you, and I might have some debts out there, the sheriff might come in with an attachment. If he gets there before I sell my house, there's a lien on the house. So,
there's more to it than just registering the house.
Yes, and but those documents that get put before the recorders at the desk that record all these documents, we then put them in books. So when you, with the new technology, we did a new document management, a new computer system, you get the book and page instantaneously,
right.
Which was an improvement over the past systems. So you get an instantaneous book and page, but all those documents get put into a book. And to give you a sense, well, the first book one, page one, was from a deed from Foxborough back in 1793. When I started, I was at book 17,000, and we're now approaching book 36,000.
Oh my gosh!
And that's just on the registry side. There are two types of land. Your viewers might not even realize what type of land they have. You can have recorded land, which is 80% of Norfolk County, or registered land, or land court land, which is 20% of the land here in Norfolk County.
Well, when you mentioned the thing about book and page, does that change? When your mortgage is paid off or anything, would anything cause that to change, or would it be the same book and page number forever? Each time the house changes hands, does the book and page
No,
change?
yeah, that's a great question. The book and pages stay the same. And a lot of people, when their deed gets recorded, and, my mother died of cancer when I was younger, and my dad was like, I got to put a new deed on. No, you don't. What happens, they're thinking they have to rewrite their old deed. When the deed comes in and it's recorded in say a husband and wife's name, that's the deed forever. You may make changes into it later on, or you might deed it, you might sell the house and another deed gets recorded, but that book and page it stays permanent. So, book one, page one is always that first deed from Foxborough.
But so if you own a house, your house could have various book and page numbers depending on how many times it changed hands?
Yes, and that's something we're seeing more and more people doing. Certainly, the people that, our principal function is the real estate economy. So the professionals that are our users, the real estate attorneys, the title examiners, the engineers, they will do research and look up, for instance, a lawyer would look up all the times the houses, there's been transactions, and they're also looking for liens. Maybe the person got in trouble with the town of Avon and there's a tax lien. Well, they want to make sure that tax lien was paid off. So these are the things when you sell your property or when you buy your property that the professionals are using the books for if they come into the registry, or using our internet access at www.norfolkdeeds.org, where you can look up the information. And now just regular folks are using the advances in technology to look up
One of the
information.
things that sounds fun about the book is that you end up seeing things you weren't looking for. When you start looking and then you see, well, who else bought or sold it on the same day or whatever.
Yes, and it is an interesting history. I mean, Norfolk County is one of the oldest counties around. It was started in 1793. Governor John Hancock, who was one of the signers of the Declaration of Independence, was governor and when signed into the law. But there's a lot of history here. 4 presidents were born in Norfolk County. But just reading the deeds, there's so much interesting information. We were just doing, we get invited out to groups, which is great. You can bring the computers out. We were at the Sharon Library, and we spent a lot of time doing research. Someone had an older house. And one of the deeds to the house, referenced that, that there was an insane person was selling it, and the person who owned the house said, "Oh, can't wait to tell my kids this," So there's a lot.
We're not the only ones.
Yeah, that was sort of what she said. But there's just some great history as to, and sometimes in the older deeds they described. Yeoman. There's just the old
the terminology
English.
they use and everything is really fascinating.
In those documents, what we've done, one project we're very proud of is, we've always had the old indexes online. When I became Registry of Deeds, we put them online. People could look at the old indexes, get the book and page, and then kind of back their way into the documents. Now all our indexes have been merged, so that if you index your name, Sandy, every Sandy Blanchette back to 1793 can come up. So it took some time, but we're back
any
there.
transactions that I've done or anyone in
You just could run a
name.
name. You could run a historical name. We have the Adamses, President John Adams, John Quincy Adams. And what we've also done, and we just finished the project from 1793 to 1900, when the documents got brought to the registry in Dedham, a scrivener would write out the documents. So it was all handwritten documents. So those books and it was 861 books from 1793 to 1900, were 861 books. It was all handwritten. And we were the first registry in New England to transcribe those documents. So the documents are in cursive. I went to parochial school, St. Catherine's in Norwood. The nuns made sure you learned. But a lot of people don't know cursive, but it's also made the documents easier to read. So the professionals love them. The real estate attorneys that have to do the title search love it. But we're seeing more and more people doing historical and genealogical research on their home.
So when you transcribed them, did you do that online or did you do that on paper as well?
No, we scan. All the documents have been scanned in. We have an image library of over 6 million scanned images, and they between the workers at the registry and we had a vendor do the work. The images, the images went out. The handwritten images went out, and it was just tedious transcription.
Yeah, and they came back as typed.
Yes, and there was over 450,000 documents between 1793 and 1900. We started just with deeds because we figured that's where more people are interested in, and we got such a good response. Plus, I figured if it doesn't get done, no one will do it. So just do it. And we have a lot of people coming into the registry or commenting when we go out to these community groups, saying how interesting they found doing the research now, because they can kind of read the documents. My thought was it's hard to make history come alive when you can't read the documents. And and the beauty of the images on the computer is you can scan them in, and anyone can do that.
So are those scanned images, are those available online, or do you need to come into the registry and see them on microfiche or something?
No, by law we still microfilm all the documents. We have to, and we still do. It's a good way to protect the images to make sure if something happens they don't get lost. But all our images have been scanned in, so they're online. So if your viewers go to www.norfolkdeeds.org, they have a right. It's free access to look up this information, and they could view it. And if they have any issues on viewing, because sometimes with the computers there's pop-ups, call our IT department, because they'll walk you through. But you can, these records, we're trying to bring them into people's homes and businesses. You can view these scanned images online. If you come to the registry directly, because you want to do it the old-fashioned way, you just go to the books and you go through the indexes. We still print the indexes too, so people can do it the old-fashioned way. But the time it takes, to do it on the computer is so much faster than if you had to go through all the books.
So do your folks? Well, I know you have a pretty big customer service operation as well. Do those folks take phone calls? So if you're searching at home on your computer, would they assist that way too, or?
Yes. We spent a lot of time modernizing the registry. I always tell the story. My dad climbed poles. He's going to be 87 next year. He climbed poles for the Boston Edison, and when you're talking about what you're doing at work, he's like, hey, remember, some of us don't care for the computers, and that's how the customer service center started. We said we created a dedicated place in the registry. It's a customer service department. People can walk in, and we have staff there. We have computers there, not for the people to use, but for the staff to use to help the people that come in. And their telephone number is 781-461-6101, where you could call them up. And sometimes people just want to know, hey, I had a mortgage. Did the discharge, which tells the world the mortgage has been paid off, was that recorded? I don't remember if I put a homestead on the property. So yes, they try to answer questions. And if you go on our website, we just recently at the Avon Town Hall, we go around. That's the beauty of the computer. We can bring the registry with us, and
show people how it works.
and we can answer their questions. And the other reason to check our website at www.norfolkdeeds.org, there's a lot of great information about real estate on it, great information for first-time home buyers or people struggling with foreclosure. But we also periodically in the fall and the spring have a computer class, which has been well attended. It's not just for...
How do you advertise that? On the website?
On the website, and we try to put things out to the newspapers if it gets into the communities. And it's not just professionals that come. Sometimes real estate brokers or lawyers come, but
so
mostly
they can do their job quicker.
Yeah, they're just trying to learn. But a lot of times it's just regular folks coming in, just wanting to challenge themselves and learn how to do some research. And we can walk people through. We do some exercises.
Great.
We have a lot of sports figures in Norfolk County, so we'll run some
Follow
old
them.
sports
it's all
figures.
public information, right?
All the records, and that's a good thing to point out to Sandy is it's and some people sometimes I wish things weren't there, but by law, the deeds have to be recorded by law.
The deed's been done.
Yeah. We have to put, deeds have to have addresses on them. Right. Deeds have to have consideration, what was paid, and it's all part of the public records. And by law, any of the records that we put online, they're in the books. And we've taken steps. Before it was kind of fashionable to do so, we started taking the Social Security numbers out of the books, because before I got there, a lot of times the banks...
So you're able to...
We redacted them. We redacted them not only in the books, but also on the computer. So we've taken steps, back in the day, people would just put their Social Security numbers, and now look, you can't be doing that.
Well, I'm one of those people that decided to look up my house on your website one time, because I've been interested in its history. So my house was built in 1840, from what I could tell, and I wanted to look in the registry and see how far back I could go, following deeds and following without any knowledge of how to do it. Well, and just follow one name back to the next name to the next name. And I think I went back about 10 or 12 people into the 1800s, getting very close to where the house was built.
It could be done, and some people do it by names. I always try to tell them this is the poor person's title search.
Yeah.
But when you have a deed, if I sold my house to you, every deed usually references a book and page. So sometimes you can just do it on the book and page. So when I sold the house to you, it would say, for Bill O'Donnell's title, see book and page. Well, you go to that book and page, you find out who I bought it from.
Right.
And that usually has a book and page.
Right, so
and you
it's-
can hopscotch back. And because you were in the 1840s, you were in that period where there were handwritten documents, and now it's a lot easier to kind of do your own research historically, because we've transcribed it. And sometimes you got to be a little detective, because sometimes it's easy to get. The legal document is the handwritten document. The transcribed document might have the book and page could be off a little, because it's it was hard to discern, but it has helped people hopscotch back and do their title searches. And the other thing we get when we're out there is people asking, well, I'd like to know, when my house was built. A lot of times you have to go to the local community. You could go, try at the Avon Town Hall. Maybe the building department has some
records.
records.
Seem to have some information.
Yeah, and a lot of times the assessing departments would print their own little records of deeds. So they might have some old deeds. But at the registry can help you, because a lot of times the deeds will say, the land with the buildings they're on. And that kind of gives you evidence, at least, that, wait a minute, there was a building on the structure, on the lot. And at some point you might get it back to where it's just pasture land, but it's kind of interesting to read the old deeds.
Because it also says usually how many buildings are in the earlier deeds. I mean, because you'll see where your house, and then you've got an outbuilding and a this and a that.
In the current deeds, no. In current deeds, they just say the land with the buildings they're on.
Yeah.
You could have a shed, you could have this. But you're right. A lot of the older deeds will say, a freestanding house with a barn out back. So there's some interesting little things you can find in the deeds, and
Well, so since so many people are interested in genealogy now about their family history, here's an opportunity to go find your house history.
Well, and people use it for house history, and people also use it for genealogy, because then they find out, oh, wait a minute, I had an ancestor that lived in Avon. And now in some of these deeds, you can find, they would put what their job titles were. We've seen others where it said, so-and-so, a freed slave. There's some real, the history of the country. I mean, the history of the country
is very because
there.
Things you don't expect to be put on these public documents show up there.
I felt bad. There was one deed. It was a family deed, and it was saying the person, Al Smith, successful businessman. And he was getting the property from his brother, insolvent debtor. So here are the two brothers. They had the Cain and the Abel
Putting
there.
the dig in, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So.
Well, good. Well, that sounds like a lot of things to look up for the deeds. There's some other functions at the Registry of Deeds too. One I'm really interested in is the Homestead Act, and I think some of our viewers would be interested in that too. Can you tell us a little bit how Homestead helps homeowners?
Sure. It's really a good consumer protection. It's written into the state law. It's a part of the Massachusetts general laws, and they're always taking a look at it. When I first started as register, the protection was $300,000. It's been increased to $500,000, and it's something. So it only applies. It means different things in different states, Sandy. But in Massachusetts, it only applies to your principal residence, and it's not a tax break or anything like that. You can declare in a state of homestead here in Massachusetts. You declare it on basically a 2-page document. The document's very simple. All you need is your deed reference, and it has to be notarized. And it gets recorded. And once you record it, you have the benefit of the homestead protection. And it doesn't protect you against some things, but what it does protect you is sometimes, the example I give is that, a lot of people drive. They think they have a lot of insurance on their car, and they might have $200,000 worth of insurance on their car, but they hit someone, it's a bad accident, and there's a $400,000 case. Well, your insurance company is probably going to turn that $200,000 over to the injured party, and then the injured party is going to start looking at your assets. And what the homestead does is, I say, put a picket fence around your house, in that there can't be a forced sale of your home, your principal residence. They're still going to chase you. The creditors will still chase you, but it gives you certain protections. And when you see your local legislators, whether it's Walter Timilty or Representative Galvin, they put certain things. If you have a homestead, for instance, if you have a homestead, it protects the proceeds of your sale of your house for a limited period of time, 1 year. So if I had a homestead on my home and I sold it, the check I get can't, the creditors can't swoop in on it, at least for a limited period of time. If your house burnt down, there's a limited protection, again, 2 years. So if you got a check to rebuild the house, the creditors are kind of, you know, put off a little bit. And the local legislators allow people that own mobile homes. They made it clear that they can record it at the registry now. So there's things that it's good protection.
Who can file for this Homestead Act? If there's an age category?
That's a great question. First of all, you know, I wasn't lucky enough at 18 to own a home, but if you're 18 and you own a home and it's your principal residence, there's no age in that sense. You know, you can put a homestead on. The legislature defines elderly as 62 and above, so they have created an elderly homestead. You know, and so that's kind of an age thing that's in the statute. But it's good to point out to your viewers, it you know, doesn't matter your age. If you own it as a principal residence, you can declare a homestead. And you should also be aware it runs with the land. So that if you had a house in Avon and you had a homestead on, and then you might have sold it to downsize into a smaller house or a condo, you should put a homestead on the new place. So once you sell your house, the homestead no longer applies. And if you buy a new property and it's your principal residence, you should do it again. You should really do it again. So I think it's a good consumer protection that everyone should consider.
Because the things you were talking about that could happen, those are already stressful enough. You don't want to have to be losing your home at the same time.
No, and thank you, legislators. One thing they did was if you haven't declared an estate or homestead, you get $125,000 worth of protection. It gets a portion depending on how many own it. But the filing fee for a homestead, which is set by the state legislature, is relatively modest. It's $36 on the recorded land side, $35 on the land court side. For that type of money, I'd rather get the $500,000 worth of protection. But at least for the first time in Massachusetts history, there's an automatic homestead, and thank you, legislators, for that, because it gives you a little bit of protection.
That automatic.
If you did nothing.
Yeah. Okay. So what is the difference between the elderly homestead and the regular one?
In the past, there wasn't much. It was $500,000, but now, when they redid the statute, you know, each person has the right to do it. So if you own the property with a significant other, your spouse, you each have $500,000, and there's some indication, at least in the statute, that maybe you can stack it. But in the past, it was just, you know, they just deemed it an elderly homestead, but it was really $500,000. But now it goes to each of you. So each person over 62 gets that $500,000, and there are, you know, some things in the statute. So then you're protecting your
property up to $1 million.
That's what some of us see in the statute. Yes.
Okay. Well, very interesting. Because that's something, well, I know one of the things that a lot of people get concerned about is that if they have to go to a nursing home or something like that. Now, I understand that's a different situation.
Yeah, you know, everyone's playing cards, not me, but, you know, some things, you know, playing poker, some things trump other things.
Yeah.
And if you have a homestead on, and if you don't pay Avon the taxes, they can come in and take it by tax title. It's in the statute. If you don't pay a bank, they can foreclose, even if a homestead's on. And a homestead doesn't prevent a Medicaid type lien, nursing home type lien. So you really should, you know, try to go and get some estate planning for that. So I want to be clear. A homestead won't protect against that.
Against everything.
Yeah, you know, it makes sense. And, you know, for instance, there are certain court orders for child support or things that if you have a homestead on, the statute's written, they don't care. You know, there's a day of reckoning on some debts.
Well, it seems like there's really no downside to do it. You do it as a protection, and then.
You know, I was an attorney prior to this. I'm still an attorney, you know, in that sense. But when I was in the private sector, you always, you know, people would say attorneys give how many different opinions on things, but I'd say 9.9 out of 10 attorneys would say, get a homestead on the property, you have nothing to lose, and it's a good consumer protection.
I think that's good advice, and that's good advice for all of our viewers, too, because they should really, if you haven't ever done it before, you haven't heard about it, this is a good thing to look into and something that really might benefit you in the long run.
Oh, yes, definitely.
Well, that's good. That's good to know. So, Bill, I understand you brought some pictures with you tonight,
Sure.
and you
Oh.
can show us a little bit about the registry and some of the other projects that you do.
Oh,
So why
okay.
don't you just
well,
narrate
this
the
is the building at 649 High Street, across from the gold domed Norfolk Superior Court. There's, Dedham is a great place, not too far from Avon. You're welcome to come by. And we have over 50 computers sprinkled through that building. So it's not just for lawyers, title examiners, and engineers. Anyone can come in and use the computers. We do have a customer service center, which we're very proud of. You can come in there. You can walk in. They can make a copy of a deed for you, or check on your mortgage discharge to make sure it's been recorded so you don't have that your loan's been paid off. Or you can call that number at 781-461-6101. This is a recording counter where, as you could see, you can come in and record the documents. The lawyers come in, or if you had your homestead directly, you can come in and do it. And you can see some flags in the back. Every community, including Avon, we approached and they sent us a flag. So we have our own hall of flags at the registry. And we asked all the communities to send us a picture. The historical societies and commissions, and they were nice enough to do it. And so
it's almost like a little museum of Norfolk County, too.
Yes, all 28 communities. What you see, and this is a customer service center. If you walked in, you would approach somebody, and you could see they have computers there, and you can watch the work that they're doing. On the right-hand side, you can see a computer. Mm-hmm. You can just watch and look at what they're looking up. The picture before was just what we try to use. We try to make the building relevant. We open it up for customer service. We open it up to people to come in. This is a computer seminar we did. We've done it for regular people. We also did a computer seminar. We sent out a letter to all elected and appointed officials in the local communities. We had police officers, people on the Board of Appeals coming in. Oh, you can see there's a police officer right there that really are finding a need to look up the
Does
information.
your website tell the schedule of any of your classes? Or?
Yes, if you check our website, you usually do it in the spring and the fall, and it will have a date, and you just sign up. They're free, and you just come by, and you could see, people are looking up our on the computer, and we're kind of having a class talk. It's like a class, and you could see in the background land court. That was what I was mentioning. 20% of Norfolk County is land court land, and 80% is recorded land. And so it's physically there. This is just an example. We set this up at town halls, or we get invited to veterans organizations like the American Legion, the VFW, Rotaries, Lions Clubs. And when we have office hours, people come in, they ask questions. These people are looking up information. We're printing a copy of a deed or a document for them. And they just ask questions, and we just
So when you
try to
come
answer
to a
them.
town hall to do the information piece, you have your computer, and people can actually access right there whatever they would at the office?
Yeah, we bring a couple of staff people. We travel light, a couple of staff people and myself. We all kind of know the computers, know the information. I think it helps that I also, have been on both sides, as a consumer recording documents, or as an attorney back in the day when I did private practice doing closings, and people have questions. At the registry, we try to be relevant also in the community. We do a annual food drive that we're in the middle of it now. We do it from Thanksgiving through the holidays, and we try to get what we collect out to the various communities. Please, on our website, we have a list of all the food pantries. They need food all year, so if
Don't just do it at
you
Christmas.
just go directly there. We've partnered up. I think this is our 12th year with the United States Marines. We thank them for their service, but we help them with the Toys for Tots program. We're a drop-off center, and people. We're currently doing that. We just partnered up with New Life. What they do is they collect beds and things like that. At the registry, what we collect from them is like cookware, pots, pans, towels.
So people can take it and drop it off at your place?
We drop it off, not the beds and the big stuff. That can go to 102 Elm Street in Walpole. But New Life is a referral-based. They have social services, including churches, refer people to get help. We also have a Suits for Success program. We collect suits. If people want to donate their suits, we send it right here. We're dropping it off to the VA. We've partnered up with the Veterans Administration to get the veterans suits. We also partner with Father Bill's place in Mainspring to get them suits, and the Interfaith Social Services, which is a community-based organization that tries to help people. And when I say Suits for Success, it's male clothing, female clothing, because people need
everybody needs professional clothes.
They need clothing. Some of them are trying to get themselves ready for an interview, and so you try to take care of people. And I think we're community-based. And hey, if you can't help people in need, what can that's what it's about.
It sounds like you do a whole lot for our community, and we really appreciate that because it makes it easier for everyone else to contribute as well.
Well, thank you. It's really the people that come to the registry that really make it
good.
go.
Well, I think we've learned a lot tonight about the Registry of Deeds. I know it makes me want to go down there. I was always wondering where it was and what it looked like. I knew it wasn't that hard to find, but it's just that making the first move. So I look forward to coming down and finding out more about my house and seeing out what all goes on down there. So thank you so much for coming tonight and sharing all your information with us.
Well, Sandy, thanks for having me, and I've enjoyed it. Thank you.
Okay, great. And I hope this information's been valuable to everyone, and hopefully we'll see you next time on Let's Talk and learn about something new.
You're watching Community Television, Avon's Channel 9. Avon's Channel 9 has the broadcast schedule on our website at avontv.org. Just click on the broadcast schedule, then click on the weekly Channel 9 schedule. This is your access to community television and the information that's important to you.